Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Really, Karen? Really? Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you have the right to respect. If you're being rude to a child or a younger person, doesn't mean if they call you out for it, it's rude. If someone talks back to you, even if they were being rude to you, then you're in the right. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Karen is entitled to my driveway. This happened a while ago. Here's the cast. Me is me. Entitled Karen. Entitled neighbor. Also a Karen. I had a late class in uni and needed to head out around 4 p.m. to make it on time. I'd returned from walking my dog at about 3 p.m. only to find a car parked across the front of my driveway. The car was on the road but fully blocked my entire driveway, which means that there was no way for me to back out of my garage. My house was on a small cul-de-sac in one of those massive cookie-cutter communities. It wasn't a main street, and there was absolutely no way anyone could have mistaken it for a parking spot. Me. Excuse me, ladies. Do either of you happen to know who this car belongs to? Neighbor, giving me the B-word stink eye, then turns back to Karen to keep talking. Karen. That's my car. Me. Well, would you please move it? You're blocking my driveway. Karen. I'm almost done. I'll move it when I leave. Turns back to her conversation and proceeds to ignore me. I'm annoyed at this point, but needed to take a shower anyway, so headed inside to get ready to go. I was ready at about 3:45 p.m., got in my car, opened the garage door, proceeded to start backing out when the car is still blocking my driveway. I stopped, got out, and sure enough, neighbor and Karen are still having their conversation. Me. Ladies, I asked you earlier to please move your car. You're blocking my driveway. Karen. Don't you interrupt. Grown-ups are talking. Me. Surprised by the outburst and confused about why this is an issue in the first place. I asked you nearly an hour ago. This is not your driveway. You're illegally parked, and I need you to move immediately. Karen. We're adults, and you're interrupting. I'll move when I'm good and ready. Stop being rude and mind your place. I'm fairly patient, but that's about to run out at this point. I start screaming and yelling expletives, tell her to get her crap box away from my car and get her fat butt out of my way. It took a good 5 minutes of sustained screaming for her to basically give up on continuing her conversation. She moved her car more to get me to shut up than because she actually thought she had any need to move. Karen. You know, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is not how you talk to adults. Show some respect. Neighbor. Really, behavior like this is just not acceptable. Me. Shut up. You allowed your hippo friends to block my driveway. I was courteous and asked you nicely to move. I could have just called the police and have them deal with you, but you responded like I was the bad guy for asking you and your friends to stop trespassing on my property. The part about this that I found so utterly insane was that 1, I'm not a child, 2, I own that house, 3, what was the issue with moving the car in the first place? Some people I just don't get. Clarifications. My car was also a crap box, college student, or I probably would have leaned on my horn to get her to move. Unfortunately, my horn had apparently run out of air, didn't know that was a thing, and would make a hoarse screeching noise before running out of wind and making hissing sounds. Also, I liked my other neighbors, so wasn't going to disrupt their afternoons with that. I agree with suggestions to have called the police right away. It would probably have sped this process up. Unfortunately, I tried the neighborly route first and didn't have time to wait for cops to show up and tow anymore. Thankfully, I don't even live in this state anymore, so now I have all new awesome neighbors to contend with. And our second story. The guy we sent to cover your sick coworker shift was incompetent, but we're blaming you anyway. Okay, so a bit of background here. I work for a famous cookie chain here in the UK. We sell cookies, coffee, muffins, milkshakes, etc., all of which is freshly made on the premises. I've been a store supervisor for over 2 years now, and I'm an honest and trusted employee. Last week, I was on a closing shift with a member of the staff who'd been sent over from another branch on the other side of the city to run the shop, with me to cover another coworker's day off sick. Let's call him James, not his real name. I arrive onto my shift in the afternoon, and the store manager is there along with another regular member of staff. The manager introduces me to James, who will be closing the shop with me tonight. Within 5 minutes of meeting him, he mentions that he saw my photo in the company magazine a few weeks ago and congratulates me. I was mentioned in it for customer satisfaction. No big deal, really. James seems like a great guy. We spend most of the shift just getting on with serving customers. I complete the paperwork and we have the occasional 2-minute chat at quiet times. He mentions he's also a store supervisor at his branch, but they use a different, more modern EPOS system. So he tells me he's familiar with the EPOS system we have, so he's going to cash up the till, balance the safe, and clean the front/retail part of the shop. He asks if I can clean the kitchen/back of house area. This seems fair to me. So an hour before closing time, I start cleaning the kitchen. Closing time rolls around, and because James has been busy serving the customers, he hasn't had a chance to clean the front of the store, the coffee machine, the smoothie maker, the work surfaces, etc. He starts putting all of the leftover cookies into a rubbish bag while I go upstairs and get changed. So far, it's just a normal shift. When I come back down, it's 45 minutes after closing time and 15 minutes after I stopped being paid, so I tell James that I'm leaving to go home now. I ask if he needs any help, and he just tells me he's fine. He says he will clean everything after he's finished cashing up. I leave him my mobile number in case of emergencies. After all, he's a store supervisor too, so he should be fine, and I have no underlying doubts. Here's where the crap hits the fan. 15 minutes later, an hour after we've closed, I get a phone call from my manager at home telling me James has cashed up the till, but it's 20 pounds down. She wants me to recount everything the next day before we open. No big deal, really, but certainly something to do as soon as possible. 2 days later, my manager goes up to the office when I'm on shift. I then get a phone call downstairs asking me to come up to the office. Sitting there with the manager from my branch is another manager from another branch in the center of the city. The manager explains that they're conducting an investigation meeting against me as to why the store was left in a disgusting mess the night I closed with James. In a nutshell, I explained that when I left the store, James was still there, and because he's also a store supervisor, he should have followed the last person out policy, which states the last person to leave has to ensure the place is clean and tidy. The manager then shows me some photos of the store, including the kitchen, which is tidy and clean, on a company iPhone. I explained that James suggested that I clean the kitchen while he cleans the front/retail area. After I give my explanations, the manager phones head office for their opinion, 5 minutes on the phone, and they want to escalate it to a disciplinary hearing. The reason? Because apparently I have superiority over another member of staff of the same job title because he doesn't work at this branch permanently. A couple hours later, I insist on seeing this rule in writing. I know company policy inside out and backwards, and I've never heard of this rule. The manager phones head office again to make this request. It comes back that it isn't a rule as such, and even though I wasn't aware of it, they're still holding me to not following a rule that doesn't exist. Personally, I don't think that they can hold me accountable for another employee's incompetence, and I'll stress that in the meeting. Well, in conclusion, my disciplinary hearing is in about 6 hours, so I'll edit this tonight and let you know how it goes. Edit. The outcome was, the evidence was inconclusive. The meeting has been suspended for 72 hours while they try to find more evidence, but judging by the answers I gave, unless they have CCTV footage of James leaving the shop before me, I'm in the clear. When he tried to pin the blame on me, I used company policy to back up my reasons for leaving him on his own. Company policy doesn't stipulate that a store supervisor has less authority or less responsibilities just because it's not his usual branch to work at. A meeting which management would like to have been over within 20 minutes, with the outcome being a written warning or something similar, ended up taking almost 3 hours with no conclusive evidence to back up other false claims made about me by James when he realized he was in the crap for what he did. And our last story. Blocking my neighbor's Airbnb with a shed. A little background. I moved into my neighborhood 3 years ago and immediately started looking for a home for my father. About a year after moving in, a house came up for sale 2 doors down. I purchased it and put an Airbnb in for about 6 months before my dad moved it. The neighbors in between my house and my dad's house decided they liked the Airbnb so much that they would build one in their own backyard. When construction started, they told all the neighbors they were building an addition to their home for their growing family, but when the plans came through, it turned out they were building an ancillary dwelling. At the beginning, I really didn't care. Their property, no HOAs, do what you want. However, this changed as they were completing the structure. They put the only door in and out of the Airbnb as close to my property as possible. They also made a small parking pad next to the Airbnb that no one wants to use in fear of getting their car sideswiped in the alley. Their guests use my garbage cans, park on my garage pad, and wake me up with their car alarm and engine starting at all hours. My bedroom's the nearest room in my house to their Airbnb. I've talked to them about their guests, but there's a new guest every day or two and the same problems keep reoccurring. I want to put a shed on the edge of my property to try and block the noise to my bedroom and form more of a barrier between my property and my neighbors. However, if I do this, they will not be able to get anything large, i.e. a couch, refrigerator, etc., in or out of their Airbnb because it would leave them with only 2 feet of space outside their Airbnb. I don't remember having issues when I had an Airbnb, but we had a house with its own parking and its own garbage. I feel like I've lost some of my privacy and space so my neighbor can make some extra money. Update. So I decided to put a shed next to their Airbnb. Whatever happens, I don't care. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.